Hello and welcome back to another video from Simply MK. My name is Mladen and today we're gonna be reacting to a channel called Promise Backlund, and the title of the video is Christian claims meaning plus purpose is delusional without a god. Atheist response. Now, as an ex-atheist, or better to say agnostic myself, I can tell you that I understand both sides of the coin. I understand that it is very difficult to accept the fact that there is a supernatural God who gives our lives meaning and purpose, but I'm very curious to see what she's going to say here. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video.
I make content over on TikTok, and sometimes people make videos responding to my content. So I thought we'd watch one of those videos together and I would give my own response back. Here's the video this guy is responding to. It's just text saying that you can have meaning, purpose, experience awe and wonder, all without a God.
Sure, I'd agree.
Have meaning.
Okay, so the text of the video that she's saying that got the response says, "You don't have to believe in a God to find meaning, purpose, awe and wonder in life." And this is true to a degree. You don't have to believe in a God to find meaning for yourself. However, how meaningful is this meaning if you think about it in the grand scheme of things? If you think that you're gonna exist for about 80 years, your meaning is pretty insignificant because the universe existed for billions of years, so 80 years is nothing in the greater scheme of things. So, is there more to meaning than just what you self-impose, or is there nothing to it? Let me know in the comments below, what do you think?
Meaning, purpose, experience awe and wonder, all without a God.
Sure, I'd agree with that. However, I would say that the only way for that belief that your life has meaning and purpose to be anything other than a self-imposed delusion would be for there to be some kind of God or supernatural authority to bestow that meaning and purpose.
Off to a great start with false dichotomy. You are basically saying that you have decided if meaning and purpose doesn't come from a God, if it is self-imposed, then that must mean it is delusional. And therefore you're right, and you win.
Okay, so she starts off with the false dichotomy, which I do not agree with. It's not false dichotomy, it is real dichotomy, because there are only two options to meaning and purpose in life. Either the meaning is given by God or it is given by an individual. I don't see third option because we are limited that way. Meaning can only come from the mind, and mind can only be what we think about, so our own mind, or some greater mind that we are not yet aware of.
Game over. There are plenty of self-imposed things like laws, languages, calendars that we don't call delusional. Even though, yes, they are things that humans came up with because they make our lives better, easier, or something.
I don't see why she's bringing up these points. Laws, they were self-imposed. Calendar, language. First of all, we do not know where these come from. We do not have history going that far back from what I understand. But we can do a Google search or ChatGPT it and come to knowledge and see if there's an answer for that. But honestly, these concepts do not match well with the meaning and purpose that we're talking about here. So let's just skip over what she's saying here.
Meaning and purpose are emergent things, and you don't get to redefine meaning as something that requires a God just because it fits your narrative. It's also special pleading to say that humans can't self-impose meaning, but God can.
Okay, so humans cannot self-impose meaning, but God can? That's exactly right, because God is the author of this reality. He has created everything and He has the authority to give meaning and purpose to every single one of us. In the Bible, we can see the text where it says that every hair on our head is counted. That means that He cares about us. That means that He has specifically created us for a purpose. I do not know what the purpose of this life is yet, but I do understand that we have to keep going and keep living for a certain reason. There is a meaning and purpose that's greater than what we self-impose. there is something greater out there that we do not understand yet.
Say that humans can't self-impose meaning, but God can.
Because if there is no God, and all we are just a complex assortment of atoms completely governed by the laws of physics, then all outcomes are either determinate or random. The only way for something like purpose to exist would be for those atoms to come together in a specific way that creates that illusion of purpose in our imaginations.
It's fascinating to me that the only people I ever hear reduce humans down to just atoms are theists. Because, sure, we are made up of atoms, but that doesn't mean that everything's just an illusion now. What these atoms are doing and what they make up is very relevant. Meaning is just what us humans as individuals find has significance or importance in our life. What makes us feel significant and important. Purpose would be the goals that we set and pursue in order to experience that sense of significance or importance. Again, these are ideas that come from the mind, like language, and we don't call language delusional just because we're made up of atoms.
Okay, so now she's saying that meaning and purpose basically come from the mind, but which mind does this purpose and meaning come from? If it is just human mind, then everything is senseless, because everybody can have their own meaning, everybody can have their own purpose, but ultimately it doesn't really matter, because what we want to do is procreate, have our genes live on, and so on and so forth, which means that our lives, our ideas, who we are going to disappear after our death. And that means that our lives don't really have a purpose, because we have existed for a very limited time and we are going to be forgotten in this grand scheme of things. However, if there is a God, then we know for sure, for certain actually, that there is a purpose greater than what we are understanding so far. We are living for some reason, and that's the whole point. Also, it's funny how she noticed that only atheists, or actually only theists, are the ones who reduce humans to atoms and whatnot. Why not? Honestly, why not? If you're a theist or an atheist, you have to understand from both perspectives that there is no greater meaning to life if there is no God, because you really are just bunch of atoms randomly connected to exist for a period of time and have no purpose or meaning. If there is a God, then there is a meaning behind it. That's how it works. There is no third option here. I don't think there is, right?
Also, randomness and determinism have absolutely nothing to do with this.
Just like laws, calendars, and languages that you mentioned.
Humans find significance and importance in things, and they demonstrably create goals and pursue those things that they find significance and importance in.
It'd be a comforting lie that feels good and right, but there's no substance to it.
That is wild coming from a theist, and I think this is actually the heart of his argument that he's making. But I don't believe that an objective source exists, much less cares about or even assigns meaning and purpose. It is on the theist to provide evidence that this objective source exists at all. And then you also would have to go on and prove that it cares about things like meaning and purpose, which are very much human concepts. Without evidence that that's true, that there is an objective source, then you are the one that has made up a story and are clinging to it for comfort, or perhaps just lazily outsourcing your responsibility to create your own purpose and meaning in life.
She's got a point here. It is on a theist to prove that there is a God. However, nothing in this life can be proven, and we can only point towards evidence towards God. There is plenty of evidence. I have literally my own book, or actually a couple of books, notebooks that I have written plenty of evidence for God's existence, for the point of life, for the way that we should live and whatnot, and I'm not gonna name all of them right now. I can make a separate video on it if needed, but what I do wanna say and mention here is that if there is law that we should follow, if there is meaning that we should follow, would it be better to follow God's meaning or your own self-imposed meaning. Second of all, you do not believe in objective reality, then that means that there is no point in talking to you any further, because you have decided to reject the very idea of objective reality existing. Who says that this is not just a dream that you're having? Who is to prove that we are not just, figments of your imagination that you are having on your own? That would be senseless, because every single one of us has our own thoughts, ideas, brains, individuals, characters actually, that shows that there is objective truth to this world. I exist despite you thinking or knowing about me. That is significant. That shows and proves that there is objective reality out there. And thirdly, I cannot prove that it is real, I cannot prove that God is true, I cannot prove that He exists, but the evidence points towards Him, that He is real and He cares about us.
I'm describing meaning that is rooted in observable reality. You are describing meaning that is rooted in something you have not yet proven exists.
Now,
meaning that is rooted in something you have not yet proven exists.
Yeah, but your reality is very limited. You have reduced yourself and your meaning to just what you self-impose. Otherwise, you would understand that there is something greater if you opened up your mind just a little bit.
Now, if God does exist, then He could have a divine purpose and plan for your life that is backed by the highest authority imaginable and can lead to your life having eternal significance.
If and could are doing a lot of heavy lifting here. What is your evidence that a God exists? That a God has a plan? That the plan is good? That eternal life and eternal meaning is something desirable or even valuable? I find life to be more meaningful because I don't believe that it's eternal. I think it matters because it ends. It's not limitless. That gives it more value to me. Also,
okay, before she continues, I understand her perspective. I have been an atheist or agnostic my whole life, so I understand how this argument or this thought process works. However, I have come to understand that there is life after death. I have come to understand that there is something greater out there. You can watch a movie called The Case for Christ, and you will see for yourself how an atheist came to realize that there is a God. And this movie is very powerful because it shows a different perspective of how an atheist can change and go from being a non-believer to a believer. And also you can watch a documentary called After Death, which shows exactly how humans experience death and what kind of experience it is. Honestly, I don't think that you can live up to your own proof standards, because you cannot prove anything yourself. Once again, try to prove that I'm not a figment of your imagination. Try to prove that this reality is real.
a position of authority does not equate to something having more value. There are plenty of positions of authority that have assigned meaning to things that the majority of people would agree is not actually meaningful. Also, being assigned purpose and meaning does not sound cool to me at all. Your emotional argument is less attractive than you think.
Okay, fair point again. You don't have to have greater authority give you meaning. However, if you think about it deeply enough, you will realize that greater meaning doesn't necessarily mean that you have been given a purpose which is not suitable for you. Maybe the purpose of your life is to be an atheist. Maybe the purpose of your life is to give people a different perspective. Who knows what the real meaning of this life is? So keep on doing what you are doing. You are very eloquent, you speak very well, so I don't see the point in you just giving up whatever it is that you believe in. However, try to think about the fact that maybe you are being subjectively influenced by your own thoughts and by your own preferences. just like we all are.
If I'm coming off as insulting or demeaning towards atheists, I'm sorry, that is not my intent. I just want you to understand that you can't have it all. You can't have a godless universe and have real purpose or real meaning or real morality for that matter.
I don't really care if you are being insulting or rude or anything like that. I care about what's true or not. But here we are again, where you are just redefining real to mean God-given, and then declaring that atheists don't have real meaning or morals, for that matter, because it doesn't fit your redefinition. That's so dishonest. And it is blatant circular thinking. And again, you'd have to prove that there is a God, because so far this entire video is just you asserting claims and not backing them with anything. I don't want to have it all. I just want to be honest and accept reality as it is. I don't want to create a comforting lie just because it fits my narrative, which is what it appears you are doing.
Of course, as an atheist, you're gonna say it's circular thinking. Of course, you're gonna say that God doesn't have to give you meaning, God doesn't have to give you purpose, and God doesn't have to give you moral laws which you should follow. But the fact of the matter is, if there is no God, there is no meaning, there is no purpose, and there are no moral laws that we should follow. For what reason you, as a hunk of meat that was created randomly, have to follow any kind of morality? For what reason do you think that you have any kind of meaning if you are just random collection of atoms? Once again, you are proving us right by saying that there is more to life, more to meaning, more to us than meets the eye. Also, you declare that you want to be honest and you care about things that are true. Well then, keep on exploring and keep on thinking about what's true or not. Do not be such a staunch atheist because you do not know the truth behind the matter. You do not know if God really exists or not. And yet you are claiming so much that you can fight for atheistic position because you believe God doesn't exist. There is no evidence for God, while there is plenty of evidence for God and lack of your trust in that evidence.
But if you are fine with the delusion of feeling that those are real, then okay. But if it doesn't sit right, then consider that maybe God does exist.
All that just to end your video with emotional manipulation and zero substance. Saying, oh, if it doesn't sit right, then maybe God is actually real, is doing nothing. That's not a real argument. That is literally just emotional manipulation. Because guess what? I could just tell you, well, Christianity just doesn't sit right with me, because it doesn't. And then I could use that to say, therefore, Christianity is false. Is that a logical argument? No. Despite your claimed intention, you are just being condescending and calling us delusional for not having meaning that comes from an objective source. Meanwhile, you have offered zero evidence that it even could come from an objective source. Back to my original point. You do not need a God to find meaning and purpose in life. People do it all the time and live wonderful lives. You do need evidence that a God exists to be able to go on and say that that God could even have anything to do with meaning and purpose at all. Until then, it remains what it demonstrably is, a human idea, a tool that we use to get through life. I would much rather take responsibility and create my own meaning and purpose in life than pretend like someone else is doing it for me, all while having zero evidence that that is actually true. And if we're doing emotional arguments, meaning that I create, that I choose in my own life sounds so much better than something being forced on me by an external source.
And one more time, I'm gonna say that she has a fair point. And this is the strongest point that I see that she's making, and it makes sense. This theist is using emotional argument to kind of appeal to God, which is, in my opinion, not a manipulation, but reality of the matter. However, as an atheist, you're gonna say that it's just manipulation so that you can convert people towards believing in God. I do not care to convert anybody into believing in God. I do not care that you do not agree with me. Basically, I'm making these videos to challenge both theists and atheists into thinking. My whole purpose is to make you think. I was an atheist, I was an agnostic actually, and I'm now a theist. I have come to my own conclusion based on the life experience that I had. Does that mean that my life experience is less valuable or less meaningful or less truthful than your own? I do not think so. But you have to come to realize that as an atheist, your significance is actually very, very insignificant. Your point of life is meaningless in the grand scheme of things. That's the whole point. Not the point of your own ideas of what you want to live for and what you care about living for. But the point is, in the greater scheme of things, is there a greater meaning or not? And with that, I'm gonna end this video because Promise here finishes her video. At the end of the day, I think that atheists are making same circular arguments that theists are making, if we wanna call them circular arguments. Basically, we cannot prove to each other either perspective or life view, and that's fine. We can just live and be separate if we want, or we can choose to put our differences aside and stick together because this is one life, one opportunity that we should try our best to live in a good way. Why should we live in a good way? Well, if there's a God, there's a reason for it. If there isn't, then you don't have to care about living any kind of way. You can do whatever you want, right? Anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao!